Okay, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yep.
This is the wrong file. Hang on. Oh, I screwed up. So this, let me put this information back in here. Because this is how I have it on there. Hang on. This in the middle is the gutter, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
This is the border that you're going to tape. And then this area here that I will put in light green or light yellow is your image area, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So when you create this, what you want to do, and I know that I'm putting the cart before the horse because we're going to do thumbnails and all that ahead of time, but I want to set up the whole project so that you guys, start thinking about all of it at once. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So you're going to tape off your border. You're going to have a piece of paper that's bigger than your border. So you're going to do your image area is 11 by 17. Then you got a 1-inch border. So whatever that comes out to, 12 by 18 or whatever it is. So you're going to want basically just get a full sheet of watercolor paper is what I would do. And then you can usually probably split it in half. It'll still be bigger because you want to have quite a bit of area outside of your tape border. For one thing, you can use it just to test colors. And it just also, when you cut it out, then you'll have a nice clean border. Does that make sense? And it's on the video how I cut it out. I just put a straight edge on the outside of the border, outside of the 1-inch tape with an X-Acto blade, and I get a nice clean border. I'm trying to find one. Hang on. See how that has a nice clean border around it? That's what we're looking for. Okay. Now, you're still going to want to put that border there, but if you do something like that that has a white background or something like that, then obviously that's a little different. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The other thing you're going to want to do when you do that, I'll talk about that actually more when we get closer to it because you'll forget half the stuff I'm going to say. For your thumbnails. Okay, does that make sense so far? And did you guys see the text that I gave you?
Yeah, the prompt about the alligator and the show and
Not a
tell.
prompt, it's text. Prompts
Oh,
for fan
text
art.
to put. Okay, I got you.
I don't like that language. I don't like prompts. I don't like all that stuff. But and here's how I'm going to want you to go about this. In the beginning of this, it's just going to be total basic ideas. Like I was doing one for the demo I just showed you for the border. I originally was going to do my cat's cafe. She has a cafe out in the forest, right? So I started doing, and and this is just, I'm just going over stuff I like. You can do them digital. You can do them. I'm trying to find my pin. Oh, here it is. One of the pins I like is a flare. The reason I like these is they're pretty thick. And the reason I like that is because I can't get fussy. You do not want to get fussy with these thumbnails. And what I'm going to want on Monday is 5 distinct ideas. Okay. And when I say distinct, what people tend to do is they come up with an idea and they go, the kid's sitting at the bus bench at the with the alligator sitting here and all the other kids are bunched up over here terrified. Maybe that's the idea, right? So instead of being in the classroom, the kid is at the bus stop or whatever. And then they'll move the alligator over here and all the kids are over here, and they'll move the crowd over here, and then they'll make some little variations on the same idea. Does that make sense? You never want to do that. Now, having said that, I'm asking you for 5 thumbnails. If I'm doing that and I have a good idea, I might do those iterations, okay? Because I'm hot on the idea in the moment. I think that's totally fine. But if you do that, then go, hey, here's like a bunch of variations on that idea. And then you go to another idea. Does that make sense? Now, the first time I gave this assignment, I made the mistake of riffing a whole bunch of ideas, okay, and drawing them and all that stuff, just little thumbnails. And that was a mistake because it's a mistake on my part, actually. That stuff's going to get in your head. And then when we came back, I'd say 70% of the ideas were just my ideas. They just redrew my ideas. Okay. So I'm a little leery of doing that kind of thing. Okay. What I will say about this is you never just want to be totally on the nose. Does that make sense? I mean, there's a time for that. I get it. And you're doing a 2-page spread. Okay. Now let me grab a book here. Hang on. Okay. So the way I look at, like, not always, but a 2-page spread sometimes is sort of, you're reading the book in a linear way. You're following the story. And then sometimes you'll open up, there's a 2-page spread that's kind of spectacular. Does that make sense? It's kind of why you go to that 2-page spread. So I just bought this book, which I think is really cool. Okay. It's written by a ballerina who's really cool. I listened to an interview with her. And this is digital, but it's really nicely done. So you've got your storytelling pages, correct? Does that make sense? They're just sort of illustrating the story. Okay. This will be helpful when we go to a graphic novel idea, but this is a children's book. So eventually she's telling the story about when she started learning to dance. This is a nice little framing device where they use the adult ballerina's legs to frame the young ones. I thought that was really nice. Drawings in this one are pretty straightforward. What's interesting, by the way, she's a famous ballerina. She does all this cool stuff. And she's like in the New York City Ballet, so she's a big deal. When she was going to do this book, she knows the physicality of what she does, that it's very difficult, right? And she, I think, picked this particular illustrator to do this, who actually usually does like Marvel stuff, like comic book stuff. And the reason she picked him is because she knew he'd be able to get the physicality and the action and the poses and all that correct. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. She didn't want some highly stylized person who's just not going to get it, because this is obviously something that's near and dear to her heart, right? So then you kind of go, this is kind of nice. This one. And then you get a really, like, exactly what I'm talking about here. Hang on. So she finally has her moment, I guess, to get on stage or whatever. Here's the kind of looking at the empty stage. She's going to do a performance. I think it's her first performance. And then you get the big payoff. Everybody see that?
Yeah.
That's really nice. Now, what you have to be aware of is this gutter, okay? Just like that demo I did for this class that you guys are going to see, I actually stuck that bear right in the gutter, right? Because I was just doing the demo. I wasn't thinking about it. But I couldn't do that. Normally, that bear would have to be off to the thing, and I have to make sure I got to make sure nothing gets buried in that gutter, okay? When you get to a thicker thing, it's even more important. This is a graphic novel, but still. Because this gutter is severe. You see that? Anything goes in that gutter is going to get buried, okay? And I just grabbed this one just because this is actually political stuff, but let me see if I can find anything in here. Because we're doing watercolor. Yeah, there's nothing in here. Anyway, this guy just does really amazing watercolor editorial stuff. He's a big political guy.
I have a question for you, Mike.
Sure.
So I know that we should think about the entire piece as a single composition, but should you think about each individual page as its own composition when creating for a 2-page spread? So say, like, if you moved your bear off to the side, would you have moved the cabin behind them to, like, kind of balance that piece on both sides of the paper?
I would probably put some thought into it because, I can't really control how they're going to look at it.
Okay.
It's got to work as a 2-page spread.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to think about all of it,
Yeah.
I probably, if I were you guys, I'd just grab a children's book and kind of look through it and get the feel of how you absorb the information in those things, how you look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's just endless possibilities there. Okay. I would probably just look at it as a 2-page thing, but I might just kind of look at half of it and just go, is that kind of working? And now I know it's all working together. And then might look at it, well, that side looks a little empty or whatever. I just want to make sure that's just compositional stuff. I want to make sure that it's balanced. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm following.
Okay. And what the mistake people make a lot with this project, and I don't know why, they do their painting all the way to the edge of the paper. Even though I've said 400 times, I go, it's got to have a 1-inch border. Why do I want that? Okay, there's a bunch of reasons, but what's the main reason I want that 1-inch border?
It's clean.
It's a clean presentation, right? And I had a teacher one time tell me that, I can't remember the number, but I think it was 70% or something like that. He goes, 70% of your thing is presentation. And when you'll see it, when you pull off that tape, it's going to elevate your piece a lot. Okay. Just that presentation and that clarity and that professionalism, it elevates your work. Does that make sense? Now, you always want to be thinking about that. I don't care if you're working digital or whatever it is, just always professional. And I think I told you guys a variation on the story, but there was also one at Art Center where this guy kind of came in as a fine artist and he switched to illustration. He came in as a fine artist because he knew he couldn't get into the illustration program. And he was really sloppy. And so we always had clean borders, okay? But his borders always had fingerprints all over them. And, charcoal fingerprints and all this kind of crap. It was really weird. And somehow he got away with it for a while. And then finally there was a teacher, he goes, get that shit off the wall. He goes, I'm not going to look at that, man. He goes, it's a sloppy mess. He goes, don't ever bring anything in like that again. He goes, you're going to put something like that on the wall? Don't put it on the wall.
I see.
You know what I mean? It's important, in other words. Okay.
Sassy.
What does that mean? Is that the person talking to me? Okay. So I pulled a couple of things here. Now, when I was saying about the where did my hang on. There it is. What I was saying about the I tend to use fatter pins, things like that. If I'm doing this traditionally, I like to do this traditionally. I like drawing on paper. It's just me. If I don't, if I'm doing it for a client or something like that, then I might do it on my iPad or I might do it on the Cintiq just because it's easier for me to just quickly assemble those and email them. So I don't have to scan anything or whatever. But when I was thinking about doing the one of my cat's restaurant, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I see.
I was doing these with a Sharpie. I mean, not a Sharpie, a flare. Now, you can see they're readable, but they're really simple. Does that make sense? Because all I care about at this point is ideas. That's all I care about on Monday. I want some, and here's why. And if you notice, I was using a flare and a fat Sharpie, okay? The reason I do that is I use the Sharpie to go in and just either put down a big area of value, or I just go and I hammer some of the lines so they read. Does that make sense? And the reason I'm starting this on this basic thing, I do this with everything. I'm going to go through this process with you from beginning to end. So when we get to the second project, I'm not going to go over thumbnails with you. I'm not going to go over color comps with you. I'm not going to go over value comps with you because you're already going to know it. And we'll be able to jump right into the thumbnails and the ideas. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So this will be our longest process. And also this will be our longest process because you guys are using traditional media and I don't know how many of you have used it. Okay. And I'm hoping if you have used it, then I'm going to elevate what you do know about it. Okay. There's a lot of ways to think about paint and they're not usually like when I took a watercolor class, I got stuff out of it, but it wasn't, it's much looser in your thinking. It's much more abstract in your thinking, even if you're creating a really fairly tight illustration. Okay, does that make sense? And then there's things to do to just to elevate it, like modulation of color, modulation of value, which we'll talk about. All those things just elevate your work temperature, elevate your work, and make it look a little more professional. And when you get good at it, a lot more professional. Okay. Now there's also stylistic things, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form really gonna dictate your stylistic choice. The only time I will do that is if somebody's doing a really, because I get this sometimes, they'll do something really simplistic because they're just trying to get out of doing something that's not easy. Does that make sense? And I can usually spot that. Now, there's also styles that are very simple, maybe flat washes of color and things like that. And, you know, if you can pull that off, that's fine. But don't go looking for things and go, I want to do something like that because it's easy. You don't want to do that. You want to challenge yourself. Does that make sense? And by the way, going through a traditional process is going to help your digital work. Okay. Everything you're going to do that's traditional will help your digital work. Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. So like this line right there on the end of that little corrugate roof, that's a big fat Sharpie, this black. So all I'm trying to do is make them. And the reason I'm doing them this way, I could walk into an art director's office and those would be fine for discussion, for like an opening discussion. Okay. Or the ones I showed you last on Monday, Gregory Manchess, who does pretty solid thumbnails with pencil. Okay. The main thing with thumbnails is not complexity. The main thing is learning to pare down your drawing and still have it very readable and very communicative and very understandable. Okay. One thing I've always said, and it's a little different if you're working one-on-one with a creative, but if you go into a presentation, okay, and I've always said this because it had happen to me, and you're not clear in what you put up on that wall, you got a presentation behind you, you're doing your spiel, and there's, I don't know, important people in front of you, you know, 12 of them. As soon as somebody in that room, you're going through your presentation, somebody goes, what is that? And you go, what? This right here? And they go, no, right over here to the, over here. And you go, it's a, once you start doing that, you're sunk. Does that make sense? It means it's not grabbing them. It means they're not impressed. It means you're not, and the reason they're not impressed is you're not clear. They don't get what you're saying. These are you're going to be pitching a lot. That's what people don't understand. Depending on what you're doing, you're going to be pitching a lot to people who are not creative. You might be pitching to marketing people, you might be pitching to money people. When we were putting stuff together at Imagineering, we were pitching to Michael Eisner. And I know that everybody likes to pretend like he's a creative person. He's not. He's a business person. Okay. Peter Schneider, who used to be the head of animation, that was a different thing. He just came in and shot it all. It wasn't from a movie. Who is that? So anyway, there's a bunch of different ways that you can get shot down. Does that make sense? But what you really want to do is when people walk in and into the presentation, they, you know, they're going to your work and go, wow, that's cool. Like they're already excited about it. Does that make sense? So if I can go in an early stage meeting and do the same thing with thumbnails, where they're like, wow, these are cool. You know, these are fun. You know, I've already kind of pulled them into my thing a little bit. Does that make sense? If you get your drawing skills down and your illustration skills down and all those skills down, it's a magic trick to other people. And you can use it as a magic trick to pull them in. Does that make sense? And I've used it in a bunch of different ways. Okay. You throw down drawings in front of people, man, they're all amazed. Okay. I would be too if I couldn't do it. Or I was before I could do it. Okay. So I looked through here and found some from last term. They're not all from this project, but I'm going to try and find some. Hang on. I was looking for like thumbnails. This is one where Brianna started. Okay, these were fine to put up. Top view looking down, alligator, you know, storytelling. So the alligator had integrated into the class and they were having fun. So she went in the opposite direction of that I was thinking of, scaring people or whatever. And then she just had all these different ideas. And this is very early on. So she could explain these to me and it was fine. Does that make sense?
Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that sentence about the alligator, is that what we're thumbnailing or okay.
And be aware of something. So we're doing a little bit of a dance here.
Yeah.
The dance is there's a whole book supporting this idea, right?
Mhm.
You're doing one page. So I wanted to read, the reason I picked that specific text is it has enough complexity where you kind of have to think about how you're going to handle it. And he really, it presents a lot of good staging problems or staging solutions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it also gives you a fun character to draw with the alligator, if you want to put that in there, and then kids and however you want, and again, it doesn't have to be in the classroom. It could be on the way to the classroom. It could be, there's all sorts of different things, ways we went about it. Okay. Or different people went about it. And by the way, when you're first working on this, you got to be a little loose. Like if I go in here, one of the things I like to do is I'll print out, I think I have one, hang on. Pulled some files from my vast archive. Okay. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll take the ratio. These are actually Camille's. Oh no, yeah, I think these are Camille's. I'll take the ratio. I'll put as many up on a page as I can, and I'll just print them out. In this case, we were doing comps, but I'll usually do, smaller ones. I'll put the gutter in there. I'll print them out. I'll have like 6 up on a page. It might only be like that big. And I'll just know that I'm in my ratio and I can just go. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Trying to find maybe one that's more. I go through this stuff and then I see the early stuff and I go, God, that was bad. My stuff. So what I might do is I might go take this. I always set it up in Illustrator, but you can do it however you want. Wait, let's go through a couple more of these first. More ideas. Oops, that's me. I don't want that. Now, this is a different process, but then Brianna landed on hers, and this is for a different project, but still the same thing. Then she got her transfer on her paper. And before that, she did value comps. She did these in watercolor. Okay, just black watercolor. I love using black watercolor for this. You could use markers, you could use anything. But don't worry about value comps yet. I'm just giving you the overall process we're going to go through. I'm also not really looking for, you could do it that way. I don't want a bunch of entertainment design stuff. Does that make sense? I had somebody last term and
Can
she's
you
a
elaborate?
monster. Huh?
Can you elaborate?
Okay, those like flat like thumbnail comps you do for like scenes in like entertainment?
Kind of like
Where you do a light value, mid value, and a dark value.
okay, yeah.
I don't want VizDev stuff.
Okay.
VizDev is a form of illustration, but I'd argue it's using illustration completely in service to design. Okay, if an art director called me up and goes, and they have, and goes, hey, why don't you do this book thing or whatever, I'm not going to do that in any way, shape, or form like I would something that's entertainment design. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And by the way, the art directors don't call it out. They're going to go, is this the style you're going to do this in? because it doesn't work like on a book cover or a book illustration or a children's book. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Don't give me entertainment design, character design. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
We want illustrative work. Okay. We want charming work. We want heartwarming work. We're looking at this is children. And the reason I like doing children's books, I love children's books anyway, but probably my favorite kind of thing to draw. But I'm doing that because it really opens up a really fun world for you in the same way that if people like entertainment design or whatever, you're still doing character design and development and all that kind of stuff. But it's just, to me, there's something that it's pulling me more into it and it's a little richer. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's more inviting to you. Okay.
What entertainment design is designed for is for somebody to go, whatever it is, they go, here's a character for the movie or whatever, or let's say a keyframe scene. You're going, here's how it's lit. It's going to be very dramatic. Here's this guy jumping forward, all that stuff. But that's the only reason that is for is so the director can see, okay, I like that. Or, you know what? I don't like that warmish light over here. Can you change that? Or can that go cool? It's just to design the movie. That's all it's for. It's almost throwaway work, to be honest. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's almost like saying that we're trying to create like an emotional connection as opposed to like a technical.
Yeah, there's a difference between
Okay.
illustrative work and design work. Okay?
Yeah,
BISCOM drawing is designed to clearly communicate a design idea. Okay? It's not meant to be, ooh, what a beautiful drawing, in the same way you look at somebody who draws a beautiful portrait or somebody. It's a different thing. It's a tool set for design. I think a lot of people don't realize that. Okay. They just go, ooh, I'm drawing these scenes. It's like, no, those scenes have to go to the model department, have to go to this person, have to go to the art director, have to go to the color supervisor, have to go to this person, have to go to that person, have to go to some suits, have to get notes, have to go to the director, has to go. It's a design process, 100%. Does that make sense?
yeah.
Which
Mike,
is, go ahead.
if you're done.
No, I'm done.
Do you want us to incorporate the text into the layout, or
You know what you can do? You can do something like this.
because I wasn't sure because
Here's what I would do. That's a really good question. Okay. That's the exact kind of questions I want. So I'm going to go here and just go 11 by 17, horizontal, create. And then I'm going to go over to my Illustrator file. I'm going to grab this. Actually, I'm going to grab this. It's going to grab these two things. I'm going to fatten up the line a little bit. That's probably close enough.
Yes, sir. Do we have to use Photoshop?
No.
Okay. Just
Okay, so I'm going to pop this in here. I'm going to paste it. Where'd it go? That's weird. Hang on. That's weird. It didn't drop in. Hang on. That was cool. Hang on a sec. I got to grab this again.
Look, everyone, Mike was drawing anime.
Where?
The Pokemon on your Photoshop page.
No, I used that. You know why I use that?
Why'd you use it?
To show how to plus a really crappy drawing. Seriously, that's why I use it.
Oh, that's mean.
So Mike though.
It is so, Mike. I love it.
I actually didn't deliberately go out to find that. I went out to find a drawing that had a deadline and wasn't overly complex and had a lot of room for improvement. And that's why, and I just landed on that.
It just so happened to be anime.
Yeah, it did. It just so happened to be that. Okay, so I'm going to take this. Now, normally a lot of time, and I'll do it on here or I'll do it. Damn it. It's really hard to get it right on that line. I want to make it a little fatter. Hang on. It's a little thin. Come on. Let's go here. That's better. Let's go back to Photoshop. I'm going to get rid of this one. Okay. And then I'm going to bring this down. Let's say about there for this. And then I might change this to black. I don't know. I'll leave it like this for now. And what I usually do is I just grab, God damn it. Why it's been so hard to grab that? It's weird that it won't grab it. I'm just going to do that. Let's grab both of these. Then I'm just going to put a layer underneath all this stuff. I'm just going to flatten all these. I don't need all of them. I want to put my drawing layer here. What was the question somebody just asked me? Somebody just asked me something.
If we need to incorporate the text into the
Perfect.
composition.
Okay, yeah. I was doing all that for a reason. Now I'm going to get my favorite drawing brush. And then I might, on my sketch layer,
The first can you give me you're using Photoshop.
okay.
Yeah, I actually use Sketchbook.
Okay, so if I'm going to draw something, like if I go, so you know, like every time Photoshop asks me something, I have two screens, so it hides it over here. So sometimes I have to go look for it. You know, if I say the kid's going to be here, or the alligators, maybe the alligator's in a wheelbarrow, see his feet, and then the kid's sort of pulling the barrel forward and they're walking to school. Maybe there's this bus stop or whatever, and some other kids back here and they're all tripping out on him. I'm going to go, well, maybe the text is right here. And I'll just put a little text block like that. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. My follow-up question to this is if you expect us to like do the text. Like,
No.
okay. I just wanted to make sure because calligraphy is not my
just
strong point.
kind of universally shows text.
Okay, cool. Is that something that we
By
can
the way,
like?
that's not where I would put it.
But is that something we can indicate with maybe like like a sticky note that's not too sticky, and that way we have the full illustration, but we can show the client, where we were planning the text to go or something like that.
No, you could just do that.
Okay.
They're gonna know what it is. It's a common tool. You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's
Yeah.
a totally common tool.
So don't put the text on the thumbnails, but on the finished illustration, we'll put the text.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the finished illustration, we'll do it in the computer. Just know where it's going to be. But we'll
Okay.
do that in the computer. You know, unless you're going to make a big thing out of hand type. Once in a while, I get somebody that tries to do that, and I go, if you can do it, it's cool, but you better pull it off. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
I'm not gonna even
wouldn't do
try to kid myself with that. The
wouldn't.
the best I could probably do is do an attempt on vellum and then scan the vellum in, and that way
I
it's
wouldn't.
hand type, but it's not on the piece.
Personally, I wouldn't, but you know, like Gurney does that. He likes to do his text by hand, but he does it with an oblique nib and all this kind of stuff because he's into that kind of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, I'm not looking for what I'm looking for a little bit when I'm doing these things. Like, where's that tail going to be? I'm just getting the general shape of the alligator. I'm not really that worried about it because at some point I'm gonna have to spend more time on that and actually design it, right? Now, the other thing I always talk about in here in relation to all this stuff, when you start getting into like, when we're doing these, well, I'll show you some actually, hang on. I have some, you know, your construction methodology for these things. So like, I love these here, hang on. And I'm going to show you a variety here. These are Laura's first passes, right? I love this kind of work. Okay. And she was telling me it was based on, I can't remember what project it was. Anyway, she was telling me it was a story. It might've been the graphic novel project. She has this memory of her grandparents' backyard. It was very lush and it was really neat, but it was probably, you know, if she saw it now, it probably looks somewhat mundane. So she was sort of basing this imagery off sort of what her mind remembers it being. Does that make sense? Much more than it probably was. And she really wanted to capture that feel and all that. So when she was talking to me, she's sort of going, I'm trying to go there. That's where I'm starting to go. So she didn't need to have it all defined yet. I was totally getting what she was going for. Does that make sense? And these are really beautiful drawings, by the way. Let's see if there's another one. Starts refining a little bit, starts putting her characters into this scene a little bit. So very much, and if you guys don't love this part of this, I don't get it. I love thumbnailing because it's pure imagination. It's just pure. Does that make sense? And you're just, to me, I just fall into that scene and I get to explore it. I get to, as I'm drawing it, I get to go, if I came around that corner, it'd be cool if there was I don't know, something around that corner. Does that make sense? When I was doing the book dummy for my children's book, I would just do it on big sheets of vellum. I tape it down to, it was a scale. And this is after I had the story sort of storyboarded a little bit and I kind of knew what I was doing story-wise. Then I would just take a big pencil, I'd tape it down on my drawing board. I'd take a pencil and I'd just sit there and just go for it while I was watching TV or something. By the time some show was over, I'd usually have it really loose, real simple. Does that make sense? And that, by the way, it's what I've got in my dummy. I have to send it off, but okay. So she's doing that. Let's see. Okay. Here's something I'm going to want you guys to do a little bit later. So she did a mood board and I like people doing a mood board. Could just be a feel kind of thing. This is later. But she did, I had everybody kind of do this. Now, you guys started doing it now. This, let me see if I can find it. No, that's not it. Hang on. Those are just a reference boards. These are watercolor comps. I found a bunch of her stuff, so I have to go through it. I'm sorry. Okay, starting to develop these ideas. You can see here that the alligator is still a little too realistic, probably. Starting to play with her character a little bit. These are great. These, like, this interaction stuff to me was really where one of her real key talents to me is staging. She stages things really beautifully. And then here's her earlier color comp, or whatever you call it, thumbnails. I love this one. Them in the bathtub, right? And some of this stuff, by the way, look at this one. You know, at night after they're supposed to be in bed, they're in there with the flashlight and the thing over them. I can't remember how she was exploring all this, but I think what she was exploring, if I remember right, was she was basically doing backstory. And I do the same thing. I'll go down all these rabbit holes because it helps me to understand what the relationship is for myself. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Look at this one. This is the mom handing her the alligator when she's a kid. That's what I'm talking about staging. That is really nice staging. Here it is again. So she just explored and explored.
That's amazing.
I mean, this is one of God knows how many pages. Here she is. Here's the other kids. But look how simple they are. Right? Look at this one. I mean, I'd argue that's a really charming drawing just on its own right there. Right? Does that make sense, you guys?
Yeah.
This kind of stuff. Oh, maybe this is it. Hang on. Damn it. I can't find it. Hang on. I know I have it in here. At some point, here's some more. Now you can see here, we had a lot of discussion around this in the class. Why? Because your idea is as important as your execution. If you have a crappy idea and you execute it, who cares? Does that make sense? I grew up in a musical time when, you know, all that horrible heavy metal crap, where there was all these guitar players who could play 10 billion miles an hour and nothing they played you want to listen to. Like you go, okay, your technique's mind blowing, but who the hell wants to listen to this crap? You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about. You can have the most mind blowing technique in the world, but if it isn't in service to a story, it doesn't matter. You marry those two things together, you got something really powerful. Okay. So these are getting a little more like the kid come in, look at the posture. We talked about this, him actually being nice, but her sort of pulling back, all these kind of things, right? Here's just the show and tell thing. Sometimes, and then look, she also explored, here's this idea, then she explored a different staging of it, right? And in that case, it's all about the reaction. Here's some more development as she got further. We started going this way where she wanted to do a very stark page and a very stark page living together, which I thought was a really fun idea. And then I talked to her about connecting them somehow, and she came up with this cool idea of the trail of water coming out of the bathtub to connect those two pages. Does that make sense? And I really love that idea. And I think she ended up doing that, a very stark kind of idea, I think.
Yeah, that one of the bathtub kind of reminds me of like a composition from Calvin and Hobbes. You know, when Watterson would have like the trails that Calvin and Hobbes were
Watterson, by
walking.
the way, is Watterson. Go look at Watterson all day long.
Yeah,
Great
he's
design, great story, charming, beloved by everybody to this day, and he hasn't even picked up a pen in 20 years.
yeah.
Beautiful draftsmanship, beautiful pen and ink work, beautiful wash work. I mean, it's just everything about those things is great. At least I think.
Oh no, it's amazing. I
Okay,
love looking
same
at stuff.
kind of different ideas. She started going off path here, and I sort of pulled her back in. I go, this is getting too far out of the story, but she had knocked some values into it. Okay. And then some more early stuff. Look at these. Look at these really loose. This is the stuff I love. Really loose things and just showing ideas. Okay. Let me see if I have anything else. I just found a bunch of lures. I have a bunch of good ones, but I just found these. And I'll try and find some more. I didn't want to show too many and pollute you guys' ideas. Here's some more character explorations. I love this one a lot.
Nice little pith hat there.
Yeah, I just love That's what she was starting to feel. She was starting at some point to feel like she was moving away from sort of entertainment. This is for something else. I think I showed you that. Oh, here we go. Now, this is a board because I wanted to talk to people and go, well, I mean, we're doing watercolor. This is probably for a different project, but put together a board of things where you're going, I kind of want to go, you know, in this area, not like you're copying it, but you're going, I really kind of like this feel. Does that make sense? This is for a project after this one where the medium was open. So she was going back and forth on, you know, she did the last project in ink. She did the first one in watercolor, and the middle one, I think she did digitally. So these were just explorations of style she liked. Does that make sense? It helps me a lot, by the way, because I don't want to shove style down your throat. I want to make sure, I want to help you with whatever style you're working through in this. You know, just from an art direction point of view, not from a, oh, don't do that kind of thing. Does that make sense? I mean, style is personal, really. These are just Terminal Island. These are Brianna. These were early roughs for that. Look how great this is. I mean, I can read all this stuff like crazy. You know what I mean? And then what else do I have in here? These are just really great. I just like, here's a really nice, same technique, only just using graphite pencil. And these are just washes over a really beautiful pencil drawing. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yeah. Yes.
I tend to like to use, she's doing it pretty light. This is I think her name's Jana Mattia, I think is her name. Does real classic storybook stuff. Now, this is Chris Hong, who I really love. But what I loved about these is look at her thumbnails. You know what I mean? I mean, these are beautiful. I mean, her finish work is beautiful. It's all watercolor or gouache. And she is an absolute monster. This is one of her more worked up drawings, probably right after a thumbnail, which she'd landed on her design. What I'm trying to get through to you guys is everything is a process. This is a process. Working through your ideas and having discussions in the class about them, landing and finally going, that's the one. Then you can take it and blow it up a little bit, start to refine it and just refine, edit, refine. Then you're ready to transfer. Does that make sense? Or then actually, then you do your color comps. Then you do your valley comps and your color comps. Then you're ready to actually paint. Does that make sense? I had a teacher, and for some stupid reason, I had this teacher when I took my first gouache class. And so we were doing our first piece. And I started jumping into the, you know, starting to go to whatever transfer or whatever. And he goes, you're not doing that. And I go, why not? And he goes, you haven't done a value comp, you haven't done a color comp. And I was like, I just want to get to the painting. He goes, no, you're not doing shit until you do that, or I'll fail you. And I don't know why I didn't think I needed to do that. I have no idea. And man, did it change everything though. When he really forced me to buckle down on it, it changed everything, because it made me from then on go, man, the painting just goes so much smoother because you've already worked it all out. You've already done a couple of trial runs on it. You know what works. You don't have to figure it out. You're not painting yourself out of corners in the middle of the painting. And if you're doing this professionally, you don't have time for that. You got to go through this methodically and produce a really beautiful piece of work at the end of the day. Does that make sense? Consistently. You can't go, oh, I didn't feel good. Like a lot of stuff I hear now, you know, I didn't feel good. I don't care. Like the art director doesn't care, because the art director is going, I have to answer to this person, this person, this person. We already have the press lined up. We already have all these things lined up. You're costing us money now. You know what I mean? And you're costing us reputation, and they're not going to put up with it. Okay. So you just have to become very consistent, and you also have to become consistent with your creativity, which is why I place so much emphasis. One of the reasons I place so much emphasis in this class on ideas and developing them in a much more sophisticated way and digging much further into story, research, background. If you want to put hey, I'm going to put this in 18th century Paris, go do your damn research. Go make reference sheets and start spinning ideas off of all these things and really doing it. You can't just go there and, like, a lot of times I'll ask students and I go, where'd you get that idea for that table? And they go, I just kind of made it up. And I go, yeah, I know. It looks like you made it up. It looks amateurish and childish. Does that make sense? So, you know,
Yes.
what you want to do, and there's a trick to this, and we'll talk about as we get going through it. There's a way to use reference without it totally polluting your process. Does that make sense? You know, you kind of gulp in a lot of information, start, you know, spitting out a lot of ideas and all that sort of thing. You don't want to sit there and just look at the reference and then you start copying. You don't want to do that. Okay. But that's further down the line. Let me see what else I have here. Explorations. That's just setting up a drawing. Another, okay, so that one I just showed you, they had the little watercolor. This is the drawing she'll start off with, and she'll start throwing her washes over. Does that make sense? Now, one thing that I tend to do, but I do it with, like I said, a brownish pencil, but you can do it like this too. You don't have to use a brownish pencil, by the way, for this project. Once you do this, if you go through and you put a lot of value in there like that, when you start washing the colors over it, watercolor is transparent. It's going to tint all those values underneath, and bam, you already have a painting starting really fast because the value system is already underneath it. Does that make sense? And I'll do a demo on here if you want me to do that.
How do you keep it from being muddy? Is there something you have to do to the paper?
I would usually, there's one thing I do. There's a couple of things. I would, I don't usually use over an HB pencil, right? Because an HB pencil, it's not going to smear. If you get to a soft pencil, it's going to smudge.
Yeah, the HB is harder, right?
It's a little bit, but it's not like a hard pencil. It's sort of a mid-range. Most I would go as a 2B, but I would usually use a HB. And then once I get done with the drawing, I usually take something like this, which is a spritz bottle, not something like this, and I spritz the drawing. Okay.
Okay.
Now, what's going to negate that problem is the technique we're going to use here is you're going to stretch your paper. Okay.
Okay.
I have a tutorial on, so you won't have to learn how to do that, or it's very simple. But what I do is I do the drawing, usually on trace. This is sketch paper, they call it, right? Comes in a roll. You can go get this, and you need this for this class, by the way. And then this will last you forever. You can use it for, and I love drawing on this stuff. So I'll just pull that out, tear it off, and I'll start doing my drawings on it. Okay. Everything erases off this really nice. So as you're designing, you want to alter things. The other thing I'll do is I'll start drawing on it. Let me show you. Let me switch cameras. So, okay, I want to do that. I want to do this. Okay. You guys can see that, right? Is it too blown out? Or can you see it okay?
Looks
Seem
Huh? A little
Yeah,
better
it-
there?
yeah, it's better there.
Oops. How about there?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. So if I'm drawing something on here, you can see that, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm just going to make a bunch of noise here. Hang on. Let's say that I have a face here. Now I can come in here and erase things out very simply. You can see it basically goes away almost like a whiteboard. And then a lot of times I might try putting, I don't know, putting a hand here, let's say. And I might not want to change that, but I might go, I don't think that's it. It needs to be longer, obviously. But I might want to change a position. Like let's say with the head. I might go, I'm going to try this head shape. But I'm going to go, I think it will be better if he's looking up this way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Can you see that?
I'm
Yeah, we
looking
can
at
see it.
So if I like that, I might just take that and go, well, I like it there. Take a little piece of drafting tape, and then I might come back over it and start refining it on another piece. And I just keep refining. It's like doing layers in Photoshop. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Now, this is going to get, I'm going to go through this a lot more later. So what's going to happen is I will do my drawing. And what always happens, or I think it's a huge thing that I've always combated, which is why I use this technique. So that drawing, my final pass on that drawing, and I might have a bunch of stuff pasted over each other and everything. And sometimes what I'll do is I'll scan the whole thing because the scanner obviously will flatten the whole drawing again. Now I got a drawing and I'll flip that in the computer. I'll flip it, or I'll just flip the paper upside down so it's backwards. Does that make sense? And then I'm going to refine it, and because if I flip it, it's going to show me all the things that are wrong with it, right? So I'll balance all those out, and then if I have my final drawing, I want it backwards. Because I want when I'm doing this kind of work, I want all my loose drawing and all that stuff in there. It's all going to sort of disappear, and little places where I put value and all that. I don't want to try and recapture that. Now, you can also just put that final drawing, not the backwards one, put the final drawing on a light table, and then I'll just start drawing it all over again with my pencil, holding my pencil back here like I'm starting to draw it all over again. Does that make sense? And I'll retransfer the drawing. But what I usually do is I have that backwards drawing. I'm using a very soft brown pencil. And if I'm not using a brown pencil, I might use this one. This is soft graphite. Then I flip that over. I put it face down, tape it onto my watercolor paper, and I take like an HB pencil, like a cheat pencil. I put 2 sheets of trace over it, and I just start burnishing the whole thing down, and it just transfers my drawing the way it is, the way I like it, onto my paper. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm going to go back in and reinforce my drawing again. When I explain this process to everybody, they think it's like laborious. It's not. It's joyous. Okay, I love to draw, and I want to keep the vitality of my drawing in there. And if I just try and, if I take like people do, and I take transfer paper and I copy it, it'll absolutely kill your drawing. Okay, so this was designed to give me my drawing that I like, pretty much verbatim. Okay, does that make all that make sense? I'm going to go through this process with you, but does all that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, then the last part of that, I'm going to take that drawing now that's on my watercolor paper, and this is speaking to somebody who said, or Andrew, whoever said, will it smear or whatever. And I'm going to fill up the tub with about this much water, And I'm going to drop my watercolor paper in there. And let it get, give it like 3 or 4 minutes. Let it get good and soaked. I take it out when it feels like heavy fabric. Take it out. I throw it onto my board. I have a watercolor board here, and there's you can just use any cheap piece of wood you got laying around. Okay. And then I staple all the way around the perimeter of it with a staple gun. And what that's going to do is as it dries, it's going to go tight as a drum. And then when I cut that out, it's going to look like a piece of illustration board. It's going to be flat and perfect. Does that make sense? You do not want to hand somebody some buckled piece of paper. That's just, again, amateurish, right? But the byproduct of that is that when you put it into the bathtub, some of the pencil's going to kind of just come off. If you're using a warmish pencil like I do, it might even stain the paper just barely. But it's basically going to, as it dries, it's sort of going to suck that pencil into the paper, and it basically acts as a fixative. Does that make sense? And then I'll still go in and reinforce the paper a little more. I'll spritz it a little more so it sucks that in, and then I'm ready for color. Does that make sense? Now there's variation. Okay, you could transfer it on a light table. That's your business. How you transfer it's your way of doing it. What I'm trying to give you is transfer techniques that keep the vitality of your drawing. Okay, because again, what I'm trying to do is marry my color and my line, where they just sort of intermingle. Does that make sense? And then eventually I'll show you a couple of mixed media tricks on that if you want to try that. Okay. So go ahead.
Ideally, what size paper should we need?
Well, we went over that.
So, oh, well, it's 11 by 17, but I thought that was without the border.
That's why I said you got to get a bigger sheet. You got to get a full sheet of watercolor paper, right? So you want, ideally, you want your image area, your 1-inch tape area, and then maybe like 3 inches all around it, because then you could just do your mixes on the sides, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Let's see. Let me look at my notes. I got to see if I got through this. Oh, I posted my palette. You guys got that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, my palette is basically a split primary palette, which means I have a warm and cool of each color. I include green in there. I know green's not a primary, but everybody kind of thinks of it as a primary. You're getting into a triad though when you add something to it. But that helps me control the temperatures. It's a very simple palette. I think it's like 9 colors maybe. The only thing I now let myself add to it is I'll add dioxazine purple and maybe brilliant orange, but you don't need that. If you already have a watercolor kit, do not buy another one. Does that make sense? Because I'm really aware of not, this stuff can get really expensive. And I don't want to, have you go, hey, we're doing one project, go out and spend $80 or whatever. All right. If you don't have one, you can get really good watercolor kits, sometimes for like $20. Okay. You almost always can. Okay. Student grade paint for this project will probably be fine, especially if you're just wading into the pool of watercolor and you don't really know if you like it that much. Cotman is, I think, Winsor & Newton's student line. It's not bad. It's fine. And just so you know what the basic basic difference between professional grade paint and student paint is pigment to binder ratio. Does everybody know what that is? Okay. It's just got a lot more pigment in it. That's all it means, right? So it's much more colorful. Like somebody was asking about which one I like the best. I like Schmincke because it's very saturated paint. I really have to pull back on it and like reduce it, knock it down. But I'd rather have the option of getting it really crazy intense if I want to. I almost never do that, but I like having the option. Okay. If I want to do some crazy sunset, but I got this crazy orange, I might need it for that kind of thing. Okay. Most of the time I'm going to knock everything down. I'm not going to ever use it full blast like that. Okay. Hang on. Okay. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to go over any of the tutorials that I sent you. Has anybody?
I watched the first hour of the actual painting demonstration.
Okay, did you go through the washes?
went through.
I didn't, but you also did that for me in class like a year ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was gonna refresh on it, but
Yeah, that's fine.
yeah.
Okay,
I
so
feel like
did
I
you go
get
through the
that part.
basic block-in part of that? Is that what you went through?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, you started talking about like how you use the yellow to kind of kiss the paper with it,
Yeah, yeah.
and then how you blocked in like your sky and how to think about working from the back forward without overworking it, stuff like that.
Okay, so what I want to try and get you guys to do by next week, I want 5 thumbnails. You know, small. I actually want them small. Sometimes I get people and they do a one thumbnail. They call it a thumbnail. You know, and they're when we're in class and there's one thumbnail on one page, one thumbnail. Those aren't thumbnails.
I did that.
Thumbnails are small. Okay. Why are they small, you guys?
So you can
'Cause
get the
they're thumbnails.
idea and make sure it
Keeping us
reads.
our, oh,
It
So you don't get
forces
lost
you
in
to
the
simplify.
details.
Forces you to simplify.
keeping ourselves.
Right.
ideas.
You don't want to fuss over these stupid things. Okay. The beauty, here's the beauty of thumbnails. They don't cost nothing. You can do them on any kind of crappy paper. I like using flare pins, which don't cost crap. You know, you can do them digitally, obviously, but this is what you do with them. Look. You go, okay, I just did this. Well, that idea doesn't work. Okay. What if I put a car here and they're walking across the street and now they're over here and I don't see the kid. Okay, that idea doesn't work. You just abandon them. You know what I mean? What they also teach you to do is not be precious with your ideas. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like to learn to move through a ton of ideas. Because like if I was art directing something, I'll give you a good example of this. And it's somebody that I'm going to have come into the class and talk, but I don't know when. I worked with her at Disney Store. She worked for me at Disney Stores. I hopefully I haven't told you guys this. I had one person who came work for me and it was my mistake. I made a bad hire. I always say you can hire drawers, you can hire sketchers. This person was clearly a drawer, and I go, and it's funny because both of these were basically the same kind of thing. And I told him, and I got these couple ideas, you know, and I'd sketched them out, and I go, I got a meeting. I'll be back at around whatever time, and I'm just going to need a bunch of ideas. You can come up with your own stuff. Here's the price point. Here's the budget on it. Blah blah blah. I come back. He's on a second drawing, like sitting there like this on a second drawing. I go, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm coming up with these ideas. I go, I've been gone for like 4 hours and you're on the second idea. I fired him. Okay. Because I couldn't pay him to do that. Okay. I did the same thing with this girl named Shakay, who's a monster. Same thing. And I go, I got a meeting, blah, blah. And I came back to my desk for something in between all this. And it's probably only been 2 hours. I went by her desk and she goes, hey, do you want to see those ideas? And I go, it's been like 2 hours. You really? She goes, okay, and I can look at them later or whatever. And I go, all right, I'll look at them. She probably had 5 pages full of little thumbnails about that. But most beautiful thumbnails you've ever seen in your life. Every one of them was a great idea. I meant to scan them at the time, and I not with any mind towards teaching or anything, because I wasn't teaching or anything, but I just knew I'd want those for something. I wish I had them now so I could show them to you guys. They were so charming and so good and so readable and so perfect. You know what I mean? And she knew how to burn through ideas. So when I look at that, I go, this is a person who likes what they're doing. And by the end of the day, she probably gave me 10 pages of those things. Okay. I went into that meeting so confident. It was crazy. I like laid all those on the table and I'm like, check these out. You know what I mean? And all I had to do is explain. I probably brought her into the meeting with me and I go, you just explain them because I want to make sure you get credit for them. But if you're doing this right, number one, I think thumbnailing is super fun personally. You just start spinning these things out, you know, and if people are doing it right, like if I gave somebody an assignment like this, if I was art directing a children's book or something, they came back and they gave me 3 ideas, 4 ideas, I'd be like, really? That's it? I don't have like pages and pages of this stuff. Like, you didn't thoroughly explore this. You know, you want to thoroughly explore this. And it is the cheapest, most efficient way to do it. Does that make sense? Make sure you have a sketchbook with you, because like I love to do this when I just go out to get something to eat, or I'll just go out and go, I'm going to go to McDonald's and sketch people for a while and keep refilling my iced teas. And then eventually I'll start thumbnailing, and I'll just sit here and with my headphones on and just start spinning out a million ideas. You know what I mean? I don't put numbers on them. I explore ideas till I exhaust them. Then I try and find a new idea and explore it and exhaust it, or find a new idea and find out it sucks. And then, you know, maybe do one thumbnail and go, this doesn't work. I can't tell you how many times I've been driving in the car, I'm working on a project, and this light bulb goes off and I go, oh my God, that's the idea. That's it. That's the greatest thing ever. And then I pull over. I would always pull over wherever, Starbucks or something, go inside, take my sketchbook in there and draw it while I'm thinking about it. And as soon as I draw it, I go, this sucks. You know what I mean? Because the drawing is my test market. My drawing is my prototype. My drawing is what tells me if it actually works. Does that make sense? And then I have to make the decision, should I iterate on this and try and make it work, or does this just not work? And one of the things you have to learn as a professional is when to know to drop an idea and when to know when to pursue an idea. The mistake people make is they think all their ideas are great. So they think when they put a crappy thumbnail down, they go, oh, I just need to fix this. It's like, no, it's a bad idea. Okay. Everything is not fixable. So you have to learn as a professional, when do I abandon this and go on to something else? And the other thing, it's going to become very hard. Just getting started is hard. Then you get a good idea, and now you got to go, okay, I got to let go of that and come up with another idea. And it's hard to let go of that idea. It keeps influencing your next ideas until you know. And for me, I just keep drawing. I just keep chugging through it. And I just keep drawing. I keep drawing. And then sometimes, and the reason I love it so much on paper, and it happens on the computer too, you make a bad mark or something, but you go, oh, that kind of looks like a fishing pole. That makes sense. And all of a sudden you got a new idea because you made a mistake. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Thumbnails need to be readable, simple, and keep the stuff in the thumbnail very simple. If I have the kid here for some reason, let's say, then I go, I'm going to put a house back here. Just give me, or neighborhood, let's say. Just give me, there's a porch. You know, maybe some stairs coming down. And then, you know, if you got foliage back here, just give me the silhouette. Don't give me all this detail. Give me that, maybe a little picket fence, you know, if you need it. Sidewalk, maybe there's a sidewalk here. This, maybe the kid's walking. You know, and that's it, right? Clarify the kid a little more than I did. But the background, I don't need that much. Okay. Just give me big, broad strokes. Does that make sense? And then once I have those thumbnails, I can start working with you, and we can really have a lot of material for us to start exploring that factor. Thumbnailing is a huge part of your skill set. Does that make sense? And I don't care if you go into this kind of work. I don't care if you go into any kind of illustration work. I don't care if you go into entertainment design. I don't care if you go into product design. I don't care if you go into graphic design. You need to be a good thumbnailer because it's your language. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's your language. And if people don't understand you, they're not going to put up with you. Does that make sense? They don't want to gamble on not quite knowing if they're throwing some money at something that they don't know if it's going to work. Okay. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Are we excited?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cute. I like the idea.
Make it 10 times better. Anybody did anything in this class last time, kick their ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And screw that. Go look. Hang on. I'll show you some badass stuff. Yeah, where'd she put it? She put her stuff at? Oh, here it is. Oops. That's a beautiful work right there. Am I wrong?
That's gorgeous.
Do better than that.
That's cute.
Okay. Beautiful work.
Chris Hong.
Yeah, she's just absolutely great. Look at this. Go get inspired with this. Okay. And by the way, when you look at things like this, if there's something in there that you're curious about, bring it back into the class on Monday and go, hey, what's going on here or whatever. Okay. And the thing you got to remember about things like this, if you get, you know, if you create a children's book, you get to work on one. And let's say it becomes something known. Okay. It's beyond, like all toys and all that stuff I did. I mean, there's certain kids will have memories of maybe some toy I did, but a beloved children's book, that person hands that to their kid because their mom read it to them, right? Then they read it to their kid. Then their kid reads it to that kid. If you can do that, that's the most spectacular thing you can do as far as I'm concerned. You've actually integrated yourself into people's beloved memories, okay? And you can do the same thing if you work on movies. You can, you know, a lot of different things, okay? But you need to think, in my opinion, that's what you're doing. You're not creating a product. You're not creating an illustration. You're trying to create something that's magical like that. Does that make sense? It's the same thing when we were working on California Adventure. And I don't know who I was talking to, but I used to go, we're not creating an attraction. We're creating a place where children and kids, or children and their parents, or kids and their friends, or kids and their cousins create memories together. You know what I mean? That's actually what you're doing. Screw all the technology, screw all that stuff. What you're trying to do is create a magical thing, you know, that they're going to go, remember that time? Yeah, because I do it. I went to Disneyland when I was a kid, and there's certain memories I have of Pirates of the Caribbean and all that stuff. I love that. You know what I mean? It's something that sticks in your brain. So whatever you're making, always forget about. I used to have two guys, the manager that worked for me at Disney stores, and then another designer, right? And every now, I think they used to do this, like, I don't know, they just do it every now and then. And Dwight would go, no, Marty would go, hey, Dwight, you know what we get to do today? And Marty'd always go, we get to make toys. And I was like, I loved it when they did that, because it's like, this is why we do this. You know what I mean? We should be excited to do this. We get to make toys. I mean, come on. Is that not cool? You know what I mean? But you don't want to make toys. You want to make memories, you know? You want to make really cool things that matter. Even if it's a small thing that you don't think it matters, try and make it matter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
In other words, work really hard and get really good. Okay. So then you get to do what you want to do. Okay. So I'm going to have 5 thumbnails on Monday, correct?
Yes.
And please do not give me 2 or 3 or 4 and then tell me, oh, my hand hurt. And you know what? I'm 150 years old. My hands don't hurt when I draw.
I'll give you 3 1/4. How
I'll
about
give
that?
you 10.
Yeah, that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, you hear
Okay,
that?
by the way,
10.
when I give 5 drawing, when I say 5, that doesn't mean you got to do 5. It means you can do 25. You know what I mean? I always tell students, I go, when I say 5, I mean 35. Okay. And what I mean by that is, like, explore it as much as you need to explore it. Okay. Because this is the point where you get to just do sort of loose ideas and come up with cool ideas. Okay. Okay, guys. And I'll probably post some stuff that I can think. I'll post Chris Hong, and I'll find some other ones. Jenna Matee I'll post. I have another guy, I can't think of his name, but they're all sort of in this. Beatrix Potter, somebody you guys ought to look at.
Watherson.
Watherson. Beatrix Potter's kind of the one that goes way back, and She was doing this kind of what Jana Mattia was doing, you know, a long time ago. Kind of started that classic children's book look. The reason I picked watercolor and pencil, it's a very classic children's book technique. And I think that's it. Oh, wait, let me screen grab the room one more time. Let me stop the share. And let me get one more screen grab. What's in the chat?
We're talking about anime and alligators versus crocodiles and watercolor
Discord, Mike.
and Discord.
I love that you guys do Discord.
Oh, never
I
heard of
love
it.
anything that gets you guys, because I usually put an open discussion on Canvas for that, but you guys just go to Discord. That's fine.
If we make a Discord, Mike, if we send you an invite, will you join it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I love about that is I love crosstalk in here. Okay.
Yeah.
I love this stuff. You guys get that? Okay. Nothing makes me happier than talking about this stuff. And nothing makes me happier than being immersed in it in a classroom. And nothing makes me happier than have a bunch of people who are interested in this and working and love it and want to get in, you know, Discord and go talk about it and go check this person out, check this. Hey, did you guys see this watercolor? Did you see that? Blah, blah, blah. I love that. Okay. That's why I teach. Okay. So yeah, I'll do that. Oh, I got a screen grab.
Yeah, because I made a Discord for the perspective class because I'm tutoring it, and I sent the link to Phil, but Phil didn't join.
He's not that, believe it or not, he's not that into that kind of stuff.
He's not. I know. I just
It's
thought
fine.
like
There's nothing wrong with that.
it'd be cool if he like dropped in. You know?
I have no other life, so I'm fine with it. And I, by the way, I have no other life because I don't really care.
Mike's just out there drawing all day, every
That is
day.
basically it. I'm drawing and painting all day. I mean, now I'm like sitting here. I'm painting in my sketchbook, you know, cowboys and shit, right?
Uh-huh.
For fun, right? It's going to snow tomorrow, which means I get to sit in here, build a fire, and paint in my sketchbook. That makes me
The
happy. as a
fire.
man.
Paint the fire, Mike.
That's weird you said that. I'm actually not painting that. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I want to do some sort of bigger oil paintings of just embers.
That'd be cool. Yeah, that
Really
sounds
tricky,
awesome.
Really tricky color. So I'm going to do some little studies of it. Then I'm going to do some bigger oils of it.
Dude, you know it'd be awesome. You know that artist you showed us, I think the semester before last, where like they would do the orange underpainting and then they would have that like show through.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Like a painting of the embers would be awesome with that technique.
Well, that's basically how you do it. And that
Okay.
person, by the way, is this person here. Hang on.
Yeah, actually, what's their name? Let me save their website.
This woman is an absolute monster. Where's her painting? Oh, here. Look at these paintings.
What was her site again?
JenniferMcChristian.com. Look at this.
Oh, we can't see it.
Oh shit, sorry. Look at that oil.
Ooh.
Yeah, there we go.
Look.
$2,000.
It's worth a lot more than that.
Jennifer McChristian.
Look
McChristian.
at this one.
Jennifer
So this right here is what Andrew's talking about, this underpainting that's popping through. It's a real common thing. That's how I do all my stuff. She uses it more as a stylistic thing, which I think is cool. Look at this one.
Is that
Yeah, that's awesome. I love her work.
Look at this. God, she's good, man. There's
Oh wait,
some-
scroll
he has
back up.
this one-
Is that like a Colosseum in the background?
This one?
Not that one. There was a painting on the last page. Oh, scroll back up. It's on the left hand.
I love these though, that she does the sculptures. Look at that.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
But she has one in here of an interior with a sculpture. Look at this one.
That's pretty sweet.
Look at all
Didn't you
this,
sketch something like that?
huh?
You sketched something like that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I do
Not too long
boats. I do
ago?
all this shit. Look, I'm trying to find. Look at the planes on this. That's some ballsy work right there. I'm trying to find this one. Look at that. Look at this one. There's this one. Let me see if I can find it. Look at, there's this couple of them. This one's cool. Oh, look at this one. Going down into the subway. She's such a monster. I love this one too. That's from Life. I can't find it. A lot of these are from Life. This is probably from Life. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Because you can see they're small, 8x10s, 5x7. It's what you tend to do when you're working from Life. Yeah? Bring that kind of brushwork into your digital work. Seriously.
I'll do my best.
I mean, you want to, Craig Mullins, what do you think he's doing? He's just bringing oil painting ideas and oil painting brushwork into digital. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, you guys?
Do you think you can do so? Looking at Jennifer's work here, and when you look at like the ground planes and stuff, the way that she uses different like greens to kind of bring together the grasses and the lawns that she's drawing, do you think you can kind of teach us how to do that? I feel like I get really like stale looking like ground planes, and that's something I really want to work on and improve.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, because I know it's like color modulation. I just don't know how to approach it.
Yeah, a lot of it's color modulation and color and even value. You know, it's breaking up. One of the key things, if you want to get down to it, is breaking up form. Okay,
Yeah.
breaking things up, breaking silhouettes, breaking edges, breaking up all that sameness. You know, how can I do that? And then when people make the mistake, is they go, well, if Jennifer McChristian throws this in there, it's like, yeah, but that doesn't work here. You got to learn the lighting thing and go, just like I was talking about with that bear thing. If I put a bunch of foliage over here, fall foliage, well, that's a bunch of color gels that I can now throw into the painting, and I can place that kind of where I want it. I could do dappled light. I could do, I can have one side of him get very much warmer, but very subtly. So it turns and it keeps him in that form. On the ground, I can break it up with warms where the grass is worn away and there's warmth. I could even let some of that orange pop through underneath it, on and on and on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I can go into that a little more. We'll go into a little more as we start getting into the painting part of this. Okay.
Okay.
Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good as
Okay.
always.
If you have any problems, contact me. Okay.
Okay.
But we're going to be good. I'm just expecting those thumbnails on Monday. It's really Monday is our break in the ice day, and we'll actually start to get to work. Okay. Okay, you guys, thank you
Yes.
very much.
Does it have to be like either sketches or watercolor?
No sketches. I don't want
Okay.
any color. I don't want any value. I just want sketches. Small.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Okay. And by the way, just kind of think about your ratio. Okay. Try to just kind of think about your, even if you just freehand it in there, you know about what it is. Just try and keep your ratio in there. Okay. So you're not,
Okay.
there's nothing worse than landing on a great idea and then going, oh, this doesn't work in that ratio. And sometimes it's just hard to make it work. Most of the time you can make it work. It's not a big deal, but sometimes you go, man, it just doesn't work. And it's such a good idea. I've had people do stuff that's vertical and I go, what are we going to do? Turn the book like that? You know what I mean? And they had a great idea and a great drawing. I'm like, ain't going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's been a few of them where they'll do that, which is kind of fun. But you got to remember, usually, you know, what's the age range here? Let's establish that. What is it? 6 to 8? 6 to 9? Would you say, you guys?
I was thinking a little bit younger, like 5 to 8 ish.
You could go 5 to 8-ish.
You know, like a parent's reading it and like they can turn the
Yes,
book around
that's
and show the
really
picture.
important. So what does that mean? Probably the parents reading it and the child is very pulled into the visuals, right?
Yeah.
So you're really speaking with those visuals, and mom or dad is filling in the narration. Okay. It's very important that you know how the end product is going to be used. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that would be my favorite way for it to be read, is to have a parent or somebody reading it to them. It's a moment. You know what I mean? Because really what I want that children's book to do is do that. Where the kid's getting ready for bed, mom or dad sits on the edge of the bed and goes, okay, I'll read you a story until you fall asleep. That is one hell of a warm memory that kid's going to carry for the rest of their life, correct?
Yeah.
That's what I want the book to do. Okay. So I'll see you guys on Monday.
Well,
All right.
later.
See you then.